Subscribe to True Tears Stories for more stories. Now, let's begin this one. He always said it with a grin, like it was a joke, like the sting wasn't meant to land so hard. You'll never make six figures doing that, Kyle would say, laughing like a coach benching his star player, cheering her on supposedly, while tightening the leash. It came up often, too often. When she stayed up late on the couch with her laptop open and spreadsheets glowing in her tired eyes. When she skipped brunches to meet clients. When she spent weekends studying tax codes instead of sipping mimosas with his friends. Emily used to laugh too. A short, sharp sound that didn't quite reach her chest. At first, she thought she was proving something. That if she just worked hard enough, stayed kind enough, patient enough, he'd see it. The dream wasn't silly. The bookkeeping business wasn't a phase. She wasn't playing pretend. But Kyle always had a way of turning her ambition into decoration. Something cute to point at and then forget. Their condo, with its soft, neutral walls and shelves curated to impress guests, held a kind of performance in every corner. The framed degree he told her to display, the coffee table books she never read, the birthday card he gave her with a joke about sugar daddies and side hustles she still didn't understand. Nothing in that space really belonged to her, not in the way it should have. Her laptop did, and the quiet hours she spent on it each morning before he woke up, those belonged to her too. Kyle made good money in sales. Not amazing, but enough to keep the power dynamic tilted just off-center. If I lost my job, he once said casually over dinner, we'd be screwed. Your thing isn't exactly covering the mortgage. She had blinked, bit the inside of her cheek, and decided, once again, to let it go. He didn't mean to be cruel, she told herself. He just didn't get it. He didn't see how her little roster of clients had grown from 3 to 25 in 2 years. How she was now the one other freelancers recommended in Facebook groups. How she'd started charging double what she used to, and nobody blinked. Kyle didn't ask. He just saw her working on her laptop again and made a comment about how lucky she was not to have a boss. Emily began waking up earlier, silently stepping over the creaky part of the floor near the bed so he wouldn't stir. She'd make her coffee quietly, sit in the soft blue chair by the window, and log into her spreadsheets. She liked the numbers, liked the control, liked that they didn't talk back or laugh or minimize. They just added up. One morning, while reconciling a client's quarterly report, she noticed something. An email she'd overlooked the night before. Subject line, contract renewal plus bonus offer. It was from her largest client, a small boutique marketing firm she'd helped organize after their previous bookkeeper left a mess behind. She clicked. Inside was a contract extension. 12 more months, a 25% rate increase, and a one-time performance bonus of $7,500. Wired within the next 2 business days. Emily sat back, blinked, read it again. The number wasn't small, but it wasn't just the number. It was the fact that they saw her, respected her, valued her time. It was the exact opposite of everything Kyle had been feeding her for 3 years. She didn't cry, didn't whoop or cheer. She simply opened a new spreadsheet, added a formula, watched the year-to-date total refresh. 102,384. 6 figures, and it was only November. She stared at the number, then closed her laptop slowly, like sealing a letter that didn't need to be mailed. That night, Kyle walked in with fast food and a lazy joke about how he hoped she didn't work too hard solving algebra for Etsy moms. She smiled, just barely, took the bag, set it on the counter, and went to wash her hands. He scrolled through his phone, chuckling at memes he didn't share. He didn't ask how her day was, didn't notice the quiet shift in her shoulders, didn't see the lightness in her jaw, the absence of that silent clench she usually carried. When he left the room, she reopened her laptop, took a screenshot of the updated total, cropped it. No fluff, just the clean, simple truth. Then she saved it to her phone. She didn't send it, not yet. Emily stared at that screenshot for days, not obsessively, but thoughtfully, like it was a note she'd written to herself and hadn't quite figured out how to read. She kept it in a folder with no name, tucked between old selfies and receipts she never deleted. Every time Kyle made a comment about play money, about how lucky she was not to deal with office politics, she felt her phone buzz quietly in her pocket, not with a notification, but with the knowledge of what waited in that image, that line, that number. $102,384. It didn't scream. It didn't beg. It just existed. She didn't tell anyone, not her sister, not her friends, not even her clients. It felt too personal, too intimate, not because of the money itself, but because of what it represented. All those hours no one saw. The mornings she skipped breakfast to make a deadline. The nights she spent Googling tax law while Kyle dozed in front of the TV. The times she told herself she was building something, even when no one else seemed to notice. And still, she didn't send the screenshot because she knew, once she did, it wouldn't just be about proving him wrong. It would be about drawing a line she couldn't uncross. And part of her still wasn't sure if she wanted that. Then came the dinner. Kyle's best friend, Theo, was visiting from Chicago with his new girlfriend, a 27-year-old graphic designer who had a collection of vintage rings and a laugh that sounded like it belonged on a podcast. They met at a sleek restaurant downtown, the kind of place where the bread was small and the check arrived folded inside something leather. The conversation was fine at first, light, predictable. Theo talked about his latest trip to Tulum. Kyle ordered cocktails for the table. The girlfriend, Monica, asked Emily about her work, genuinely curious. "I run a small bookkeeping agency," Emily said, smiling. "That's awesome. You're self-employed?" Monica asked, leaning forward. "Yeah, it's grown a lot lately." "Don't let her fool you," Kyle cut in, chuckling. "She's a spreadsheet whisperer. She knows where every penny goes. I swear she tracks how much toilet paper we use." Theo laughed. "Hey, better than being one of those crypto bro guys who doesn't even know their rent." "True," Monica said. "I think it's cool. Financial stuff stresses me out." Emily nodded. "That's what I'm good at, helping people feel calm about their money." Kyle raised his glass. "She might not be making Wall Street numbers, but hey, she buys the fancy oat milk now." The table laughed again, not maliciously, just reflexively, the way people do when they're not paying attention to the person at the center of the joke. Emily smiled tightly. She felt her heart sink, slow and familiar, but she didn't say anything. She just picked up her glass and took a slow sip. Later, in the car, Kyle said, "What's with you tonight?" "Nothing," she replied, watching the city lights smear across the windshield. He didn't press, just tapped the steering wheel and changed the subject to something meaningless. That night, Emily didn't sleep. She lay in the guest room, her room now, unofficially, and stared at the ceiling. Her mind wasn't racing. It was quiet. Not numb, not angry. Just very, very clear. She reached for her phone, opened the folder, looked at the screenshot again. 102 years, 384 hours. Then she opened her messages, found Kyle's name, attached the image, and before she could hesitate, typed 3 words. Guess I made it. Then she hit send, blocked the number, and finally slept. The next morning, Emily expected noise. A call from an unknown number. A pounding at the front door. An email, maybe, filled with all the defensive charm Kyle had once weaponized like second nature. But instead, there was only silence. And that silence felt like air after a long swim. Cold, surprising, and suddenly essential. She stood barefoot in the kitchen, sipping her coffee from a mug that read, "Mind the Gap," a souvenir from a trip they'd taken back when things still felt playful. She hadn't looked at that mug in months. It had lived at the back of the cabinet, behind the chipped ones, too painful to throw out, too honest to use. But now, it made her smile. Just a little. Kyle didn't come home that night, or the next. She assumed he'd gone to Theo's, or to Monica's, though she doubted Monica knew yet that Kyle's charm expired quickly when not being actively applauded. He didn't do well with silence, or consequences. When the email finally arrived, it was short. Saw your little flex. Didn't realize you were keeping score. She didn't reply. Another one came an hour later. This is really how you want to do this? Still, she said nothing. She had waited too long for this stillness. It wasn't revenge. It was return. She was returning to herself, to the part of her that had believed in that 6-figure goal, even when it felt like a fairy tale told only to herself. She didn't tell her family yet, not because she was afraid, but because this part of the process felt sacred. It wasn't about a dramatic announcement or some grand arc of vengeance. It was about rebuilding, quietly, precisely, without needing to perform the pain. Later that week, she made an appointment to see a rental unit downtown. It wasn't glamorous, but it was hers. 1 bedroom, hardwood floors, and windows that let in morning light without asking anything in return. The leasing agent, a kind older woman with paint on her sweater sleeve, handed Emily the keys and said, "Let me know if you need anything. It's good energy here." Emily held the keys in her palm and nodded. "That's exactly what I need." She moved in with 2 suitcases and her laptop, left the joint account untouched for now. But she transferred her personal earnings, every cent, to a new bank. Just hers. For the first time in years, there was no one to ask permission, no one to explain expenses to, no sighs when she said she needed a new monitor or a weekend off. Her new office space was just a corner of the bedroom, but it glowed in the morning. She placed a small plant on the desk, lit a candle with no special scent, just enough to say, "I'm here now." Kyle sent one more message before she finally deleted the thread. "You didn't even fight. You just left." That one made her pause, because yes, he was right. She hadn't fought, but it wasn't weakness. It wasn't surrender. It was finally understanding that she didn't need to explain her worth to someone who'd spent years pretending not to see it. The screenshot wasn't about money. It was about the space between what he believed she was capable of and what she knew. deep in her bones, she was meant for. The days began to settle into something she hadn't expected. Peace. Not a loud, celebratory kind of peace, but a quiet, restorative one. The kind that came with waking up in a room that didn't hold old arguments in the walls, with having no one to perform for, no one to edit herself around, no one looking over her shoulder, offering unsolicited corrections disguised as concern. Emily moved through her new apartment like someone learning a new language. She discovered where the light pooled on the floor around 3 p.m., how the windows fogged slightly when it rained, how the neighbors upstairs had a toddler with a laugh that echoed through the pipes and made her smile every time. She took long walks with her phone on silent, found a cafe that made chamomile tea exactly how she liked it, and slowly her work shifted too. Without the background noise of criticism, she was more focused, bolder. She pitched bigger clients, raised her rates, started saying no without an apology attached to it. One morning, a client called to say their campaign had gone viral. "Whatever you're doing, don't stop," they said. Emily laughed, the sound of it surprising her. She hadn't realized how rare it had become. That night, she opened her old journal, the one she'd stopped writing in months before everything fell apart. Flipping through the pages, she found a line she had scribbled during a train ride, back when Kyle had canceled a dinner and she'd ended up eating alone. "It's not that he doubts me, it's that he needs me to doubt myself." Reading it now, it hit her like sunlight through a dusty room. That had been the root of it all, not the jokes, not the digs, not even the betrayal that lived between his words. It was the way he needed her to shrink, to stay small enough for his ego to cast a shadow over. And for years, she had obliged, but not anymore. A few weeks later, she was scrolling through her inbox when she noticed a message in her spam folder from Kyle. She hovered over it, clicked. "You probably won't read this, but just in case, I saw your website. You're really doing it, huh? I guess I was wrong. Not sure what else to say. Hope you're okay." There was no apology, no real acknowledgement, just a vague, guilt-washed echo of what he thought closure might sound like. She closed the tab. Then, with a calm she couldn't have faked even months ago, she opened her Instagram app, found the post she'd almost deleted, a photo of her workspace. Clean, simple, peaceful. Captioned with just one sentence, "He said I'd never make 6 figures, so I sent him a screenshot and blocked him." And beneath it, hundreds of comments. Women who had been dismissed, undervalued, laughed at, all of them echoing the same thing. "I see you. I've been you. I'm finally not afraid to be me," Emily replied to a few, then set the phone down. She made herself dinner, just for herself. No performance, no expectations. Just the comforting rhythm of garlic sizzling in oil, of stirring a pot slowly while humming a song she hadn't heard in years. Later, she curled into bed, the lamp casting a soft glow against the wall. She opened her laptop, clicked send on an invoice she once would have hesitated to charge, then closed the lid. No more explanations, no more shrinking. Just this: her life, her pace, her name on the account. And in the soft, sacred dark, Emily smiled. She had made it, not to prove anyone wrong, but to finally, fully live like she believed she could. Sometimes the loudest victories are the quiet ones. Emily never got an apology. He never showed up with flowers, never begged for a second chance. And that was okay. She didn't need him to. Because this wasn't about changing his mind, it was about reclaiming her own. There was no cinematic confrontation, no shouting match, just a woman choosing, one small decision at a time, to stop asking for permission to take up space. The truth is, people like Kyle rarely realize what they've done. They live in a world that rewards them for being dismissive, clever, and confidently wrong. But that doesn't mean their words don't leave marks. And sometimes, the deepest revenge isn't revenge at all. It's growth. It's waking up without a pit in your stomach. It's seeing your name on a bank transfer and knowing exactly what it means. It's putting your phone on silent because the only voice you need to hear is your own. Emily didn't just make six figures. She made space for peace, for dignity, for all the parts of herself she used to mute just to keep the peace. There will always be someone who doubts you, who tells you to be realistic, who makes your dreams feel small because they've never dared to have any of their own. But those voices lose power the moment you stop listening. Emily didn't scream. She didn't burn anything down. She just left. And when she walked away, she didn't look back. Because the screenshot wasn't for him. It was for the girl she used to be. The one who almost believed him,